Relax, kid. It's just a joke.
That was a mistake.
Get him, Rex!
Hey, police!
A little girl screamed as a biker kicked her dog in front of dozens of people at the park. The man laughed, thinking it was just a funny prank. He had no idea the German Shepherd he just kicked was a fully trained police dog, and he definitely didn't know the girl's father was watching from across the street. What happens next will restore your faith in justice. The sun rose over Riverside Park on a perfect Saturday morning. 8-year-old Emma Mitchell walked through the park gates holding the leash of her best friend, a beautiful German Shepherd named Max. Her blonde ponytail bounced as she skipped along the path. Max walked beside her with perfect discipline, his dark eyes alert and his ears standing tall. Emma's father, Officer David Mitchell, watched from his truck across the street. He was supposed to be getting coffee before his shift started, but he always liked to keep an eye on his daughter during her morning walk with Max. It was their special routine every Saturday. Emma would take Max to the park for 30 minutes while David grabbed breakfast. Then they would head home together. Max wasn't just any dog. He was a 3-year-old German Shepherd who had completed advanced police training. For the past year, Max had worked alongside David as his K-9 partner. They had tracked down missing children, found evidence at crime scenes, and even stopped 2 armed robberies together. Max could smell drugs from 50 feet away, track a person's scent for miles, and respond to over 40 different commands. But when Max wasn't working, he had another important job. He was Emma's protector and friend. David had trained Max to be gentle with children, especially Emma. The powerful dog would let Emma dress him up in silly hats, would sit patiently while she read him stories, and would sleep by her bed every single night. This morning, Emma led Max to their favorite spot near the fountain. Other families filled the park. Children laughed on the playground, joggers ran past on the trails. Everything felt peaceful and normal. Emma sat on a bench and pulled out a book from her backpack. Max sat beside her, his body relaxed but his senses sharp. Even when he was off duty, Max never completely switched off his training. His nose caught every scent on the wind. His ears moved to track every sound. "You're such a good boy, Max," Emma said, scratching behind his ears. Max's tail wagged slowly, his version of a smile. Across the park, a group of 5 men rolled up on motorcycles. Their bikes were loud, with chrome pipes that rumbled and roared. The men wore leather jackets with patches on the back. They looked rough, with long beards and dark sunglasses. They parked their bikes near the entrance and walked into the park carrying beer cans, even though it was barely 9 in the morning. The leader of the group was a man named Vic Rothman. He was tall and heavy, with tattoos covering both arms. A long scar ran down the left side of his face. Vic had spent 5 years in prison for assault and had been out for only 6 months. He hadn't learned his lesson. If anything, prison had made him meaner. Vic and his friends walked through the park, talking loud and making other families uncomfortable. Parents pulled their children closer. People on benches looked away, hoping the group would just pass by. Then Vic noticed Emma sitting alone with Max. "Hey boys, check out that dog," Vic said, pointing at Max. "That's a nice-looking animal." His friends laughed. One of them, a skinny man named Pike, said, "Yeah, but look at that little girl. She thinks she's walking some tough guard dog. That dog probably can't do nothing." Vic's eyes lit up with a mean idea. "You know what would be funny? Watch this." David was walking back to his truck with 2 cups of coffee when he noticed the bikers. His police training kicked in immediately. Something about the way they were moving toward Emma made his stomach tighten. He set down the coffee and started walking faster toward the park entrance. Emma was reading her book out loud to Max when a shadow fell over her. She looked up and saw 5 large men standing in a circle around her bench. Her heart started beating faster. "Hi there, little girl," Vic said with a fake smile. "That's a pretty dog you got there." "Thank you," Emma said quietly. Max stood up, positioning himself between Emma and the strangers. His body language changed, his muscles tensed, his tail stopped wagging. "Can I pet him?" Vic asked, reaching his hand toward Max. "He doesn't really like strangers," Emma said, her voice small and scared. "Oh, I'm sure he'll like me just fine," Vic said. He moved closer. Max let out a low growl. It was a warning, a clear message that said back away. Vic's friends laughed. Ooh, the puppy is trying to be scary, Pike said. That's not a real guard dog, another biker said. That's just somebody's pet pretending to be tough. Vic's face changed. The fake smile disappeared. I don't like dogs that growl at me, he said. Then, before Emma could react, Vic pulled his leg back and kicked Max hard in the ribs. The sound was terrible. Max yelped in pain and stumbled sideways. Emma screamed. People all over the park turned to look. Vic and his friends burst out laughing. Did you see that? Vic said, slapping Pike on the back. That's what happens to dogs that growl at me. Max recovered quickly from the kick. He shook himself and moved back in front of Emma, but now his growl was different, deeper, more serious. This wasn't a warning anymore. This was Max in full protection mode. Emma was crying. You hurt him. Why would you do that? Oh, relax, Vic said. It was just a joke. Your little pet will be fine. That's when David arrived. He moved through the crowd of people who had gathered to watch. His face was stone. His jaw was clenched. Every muscle in his body was tight with controlled rage. Emma, are you okay? David asked, his voice deadly calm. Emma ran to her father, tears streaming down her face. Dad, that man kicked Max. He just kicked him for no reason. David's eyes locked onto Vic. You kicked my dog. Vic looked David up and down. He saw a man in jeans and a t-shirt. He didn't see the badge or gun that David had left in his truck. Yeah, I kicked your dog. What are you going to do about it? That's not just my dog, David said, his voice still eerily calm. That's my partner. Max is a trained police K9, and what you just did is a felony. The smile fell off Vic's face. His friends took a step back. You kicked a police dog, Pike whispered. Vic, that's like assaulting a cop. I didn't know, Vic said, his tough guy act crumbling. How was I supposed to know it was a police dog? You weren't supposed to kick any dog, David said. But yes, you're right. Kicking Max carries the same legal charge as assaulting a police officer. That's 3 to 5 years in prison. Vic looked around. More people had gathered now. Many of them had their phones out, recording everything. His face went pale under his tan. Look, man, I'm sorry, Vic said, raising his hands. I didn't mean nothing by it. It was just a joke that went too far. A joke? David's voice was getting louder now. You kicked a dog in front of a child and called it a joke. Max was still growling, but David put a hand on his head. Max, sit. Immediately, Max sat. Even though he wanted to protect his family, his training was absolute. David's commands always came first. I'm Officer David Mitchell with the Riverside Police Department, David said, pulling out his phone. And I'm calling this in right now. You're under arrest. Vic's friends started backing away. Vic, we didn't have nothing to do with this, one of them said. You're on your own, man. Wait, Vic said, panic in his voice now. Can't we just forget this happened? I'll apologize, I'll pay for the vet or whatever. You kicked a police dog in front of witnesses, David said. And you did it to scare my 8-year-old daughter. No, we can't just forget it. Within 5 minutes, 3 police cars arrived at the park. Officers stepped out and approached the scene. David explained what happened. Emma told her story, still crying. A dozen witnesses came forward to give statements. Several people had video on their phones showing the exact moment Vic kicked Max. One of the responding officers was Sergeant Linda Hayes, David's supervisor. She took one look at Max and knelt down to examine him. How's he doing, David? He's okay, David said. Tough as nails, this one, but I want to take him to the vet just to be safe. Sergeant Hayes stood up and walked over to Vic, who was now in handcuffs. Do you have any idea how serious this is? Vic hung his head. I didn't know it was a police dog. Would it have been okay if it was just a family pet? Sergeant Hayes asked. You kicked a dog in front of a child. What kind of person does that? Vic had no answer. Victor Rothman, Sergeant Hayes said, reading from his ID. Looks like you're on parole too. This is going to violate your parole, which means you're going straight back to prison. No, please, Vic said. I just got out 6 months ago. You should have thought about that before you kicked a police dog, Sergeant Hayes said. She nodded to the other officers. Take him in. As the officers led Vic to the patrol car, he looked back at David. I'm really sorry, man. I swear I didn't know. David just stared at him. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. The patrol car drove away with Vic in the back seat. His friends had already left on their motorcycles, wanting nothing to do with the situation. Later that morning, David and Emma sat in the waiting room at Riverside Animal Hospital. Max lay on the floor between them, calm and patient as always. Emma kept her hand on his back, needing the comfort of touching him. Dr. Sarah Chen came out after examining Max. She was a small woman with kind eyes who had treated Max since he was a puppy. Good news, she said with a smile. Max is going to be just fine. He has some bruising on his ribs, but nothing is broken. He'll be sore for a few days, but he's one tough dog. Emma let out a huge breath she didn't know she was holding. He's really okay. He's really okay, Dr. Chen confirmed. Police dogs are trained to handle much worse than this. Max barely seems bothered by it. David shook the vet's hand. Thank you, Dr. Chen. Of course, she said, but David, I have to ask. Are you doing okay? Emma, this must have been scary for both of you. David looked at his daughter. Emma's eyes were still red from crying. We're dealing with it, he said. It's hard to see someone hurt Max. He's family. He really is, Dr. Chen agreed. Max is special, not just because he's a police dog, but because of how he is with Emma. I've treated hundreds of German shepherds, and I've never seen one as gentle and protective as Max is with her. Emma hugged Max's neck. He's my best friend. And he always will be, Dr. Chen said. That afternoon, the story started spreading through town. Someone had posted a video of the incident on social media, and it was being shared hundreds of times. The headline read, "Biker kicks police dog in front of child, instantly regrets it." The comments were full of anger at Vic and support for Max. People who knew David from around town left messages saying how much they respected him and his K9 partner. The local news station called asking for an interview. By evening, the story had reached the mayor's office. Mayor Patricia Green was a woman in her 60s who loved animals and had 3 dogs of her own. When she heard what happened, she immediately called David. Officer Mitchell, the mayor said, I just heard about the incident this morning. How is Max doing? He's going to be fine, Mayor Green, David said. Just some bruising. The vet says he'll be back to full duty in a week. I'm so glad to hear that, the mayor said. And how is your daughter? She's shaken up, David admitted. She keeps checking on Max every few minutes, making sure he's breathing, bringing him water. She's having a hard time understanding why someone would hurt an animal for no reason. The mayor's voice was firm. Because that man is a bully and a coward. David, I want you to know that our city stands behind you and Max. I'm going to make sure this Vic Rothman faces the full penalty for what he did. I appreciate that, Mayor. Also, the mayor continued, I'd like to do something special for Max. Would you and Emma be willing to come to City Hall next Friday? I want to give Max a special commendation for his years of service to our community. We'll make it a public event. I think people need to see that there are consequences when someone harms a police dog. David smiled for the first time all day. Emma would love that, and honestly, Max deserves the recognition. Then it's settled, the mayor said. I'll have my office send you the details. And David, thank you for the work you do. You and Max make this city safer. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the look on Vic's face when he kicked Max. The cruelty in his eyes, the laugh that came after, it scared her in a way she couldn't explain. David heard her moving around and came to her room. He sat on the edge of her bed. Can't sleep, sweetheart. Emma shook her head. Dad, why did that man kick Max? Max didn't do anything wrong. He was just protecting me. I know, baby, David said, pulling her into a hug. Some people in this world are mean. They hurt others because it makes them feel powerful. But you know what? Those people never really win. But he hurt Max, Emma said, tears starting again. He did, David agreed. But Max is okay, and that man is going to jail for a long time. Justice won, Emma, good one. Will he try to hurt Max again? Emma asked, her biggest fear finally spoken out loud. No, David said firmly. He's going to prison and he's going to stay there. He can't hurt anyone anymore. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Dad, I want to learn how to be brave like Max. Even when that man kicked him, Max stood back up. He didn't run away, he stayed to protect me. David's heart swelled with pride. Max is brave because he's trained to be, but you know what? You were brave today too. You told the officers exactly what happened. You helped make sure that man was held responsible. That took courage, Emma. Oh, really? Really, David said. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared. And you did that today. Emma hugged her father tight. Outside her room, Max lay in the hallway, his ears up, listening. Even at night, even when he was supposed to be resting, Max was on duty. Protecting the people he loved was not just his job. It was who he was. 3 months later, Vic Rothman stood in the Riverside County Courthouse for his trial. He wore an orange jail jumpsuit with his hands cuffed in front of him. His tough guy attitude was completely gone. Now he just looked tired and defeated. The courtroom was packed. David and Emma sat in the front row. Max sat beside them in his official police vest, which identified him as a working K-9 officer. Several other police officers from the department came to support David. Mayor Green was there. Even Dr. Chen came to show her support. The prosecutor was a sharp woman named Angela Torres. She had handled hundreds of cases, but she was especially passionate about this one. Your Honor, she began, this case is simple. The defendant, Victor Rothman, kicked a police dog in an unprovoked attack. This was witnessed by dozens of people, recorded on multiple cameras, and admitted to by the defendant himself. Vic's lawyer, a tired-looking public defender named Ron Walsh, stood up. Your Honor, my client deeply regrets his actions. He has apologized repeatedly. He didn't know the dog was a police K-9. That's irrelevant, Judge Martha Brennan said. She was a woman in her 70s with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Whether the dog was a police K-9 or a family pet, the action was cruel and illegal. Mr. Walsh, does your client have anything to say? Ron Walsh looked at Vic and nodded. Vic stood up slowly. His voice was quiet. Your Honor, I made a terrible mistake. I've spent the last 3 months in jail thinking about what I did. I can't explain why I kicked that dog. I was trying to look tough in front of my friends. I thought it would be funny. I was wrong. I'm so sorry to Officer Mitchell, to his daughter Emma, and to Max. Judge Brennan studied Vic for a long moment. Mr. Rothman, you have quite a criminal history. Assault, battery, drug possession. You spent 5 years in prison and were released on parole only 6 months before this incident. In that time, you were supposed to be proving that you had changed. Instead, you committed another violent act. I know, Your Honor, Vic said, his head down. What you did was cruel, Judge Brennan continued. You kicked an animal that was doing nothing but protecting a child. You laughed about it. You showed no remorse until you realized there would be consequences. The fact that Max is a police dog makes this even more serious under the law. Assaulting a K-9 officer carries the same penalty as assaulting a human officer. The judge looked at Angela Torres. Ms. Torres, what is the state's recommendation? The state recommends 3 years in prison, Your Honor, Angela said, plus a 10-year ban on owning or being around any animals. Mr. Walsh, the judge asked. We ask for leniency, Your Honor, Ron Walsh said. Perhaps probation with mandatory anger management and community service. Judge Brennan shook her head. Mr. Rothman has already had his chance at probation. He violated it. He shows a pattern of violent behavior that has not been corrected by previous interventions. The judge pulled out a paper and began writing. The whole courtroom was silent. Emma held David's hand tight. Max sat perfectly still, but his eyes were on Vic. Victor Rothman, Judge Brennan said, looking up, I find you guilty of assaulting a police K-9 officer. I sentence you to 4 years in state prison. Additionally, you are banned from owning, caring for, or being near any animals for the rest of your life. If you violate this ban, you will face additional criminal charges. Vic's shoulders slumped. 4 years, plus his parole violation would add even more time. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm ordering you to pay restitution to Officer Mitchell for veterinary bills and emotional distress to his family. The amount is $15,000. Your Honor, my client can't afford that, Ron Walsh said. Then he'll work it off in prison, Judge Brennan said. Those are the terms. Court is dismissed. The bailiff led Vic away. As he passed by David and Emma, Vic looked at them one more time. I really am sorry, he said quietly. David didn't respond. Emma just held Max closer. Outside the courtroom, reporters were waiting. They surrounded David, Emma, and Max, asking questions. Officer Mitchell, how do you feel about the sentence? One reporter asked. I feel justice was served, David said. Max is a dedicated police officer who has served this community for 3 years. He deserves respect and protection under the law. Zemma, how do you feel? Another reporter asked. Zemma was shy in front of the cameras, but she spoke clearly. I'm glad that man can't hurt any more animals. Max is my best friend and he didn't deserve what happened to him. The reporters loved it. The story ran on the evening news with the headline, Justice for Max Biker sentenced to prison for kicking police dog. But the story wasn't over. The following Friday, City Hall was decorated with blue and yellow ribbons. A stage was set up in the main plaza with rows of chairs facing it. Hundreds of people came to the event. Families with children, police officers in dress uniforms, local business owners, even some other K-9 teams from neighboring towns. A large banner hung behind the stage, honoring Max 3 years of distinguished service. Emma wore a pretty blue dress. David wore his formal police uniform with all his medals and badges. Max wore a special ceremonial collar that gleamed in the sunlight. Mayor Green stood at the podium as the crowd quieted down. Thank you all for coming today, she began. We are here to honor a very special member of our police force. Max is a 3-year-old German Shepherd who has served our community with courage, intelligence, and dedication. The mayor went on to list Max's accomplishments. He had helped find 3 missing children, all found safe because Max tracked their scents. He had discovered over $50,000 worth of illegal drugs in various arrests. He had protected his partner, Officer David Mitchell, during dangerous situations countless times. But 3 months ago, the mayor continued, Max showed another side of his character. When a man attacked him in an unprovoked assault, Max could have fought back. He's trained to take down suspects much larger than him. But because he was with Emma, a child he loves and protects, Max showed restraint. He stayed calm. He positioned himself to protect Emma, but he didn't attack. That shows not just training, but true character. The crowd applauded. Mayor Green called David and Emma to the stage. They walked up with Max walking perfectly at heel between them. Officer David Mitchell, the mayor said, shaking his hand, you have trained Max to be an exceptional K-9 officer. The bond between you two is obvious to everyone who sees you work together. Thank you, Mayor, David said, but I have to give Max most of the credit. He's the smartest partner I've ever had. The crowd laughed. Mayor Green knelt down to Emma's level. And Emma, Max clearly loves you very much. The way he protected you that day in the park showed that he's not just a police dog, he's a member of your family. Emma nodded, tears in her eyes. He's my best friend. Then it's my honor, the mayor said, standing back up, to present Max with the Medal of Valor, the highest award our city can give to a K-9 officer. An aide brought forward a velvet box. Inside was a beautiful medal on a blue ribbon. The medal was shaped like a shield with a dog's paw print in the center. Engraved around it were the words, "For courage, loyalty, and service." Mayor Green placed the medal around Max's neck. The crowd stood and applauded. Cameras flashed. Children cheered. Max sat perfectly still through it all, but his tail wagged just a little bit. Even he seemed to understand this was a special moment. After the ceremony, people lined up to meet Max, take photos, and thank David for his service. Children asked if they could pet Max, and David let them, as long as they were gentle. Max sat patiently, letting dozens of small hands pat his head and scratch his ears. One little boy, maybe 5 years old, came up with his mother. "Is this the dog from the news?" the boy asked. "Oh, it sure is," his mother said. The boy looked at Max with wide eyes. "You're a hero," he said seriously. Max's tail wagged harder. That evening, as the sun set over Riverside, David and Emma walked home with Max between them. The medal was still around his neck, shining in the fading light. "Dad," Emma said, "do you think that man learned his lesson?" David thought about it. "I hope so, sweetheart. Sometimes people need to face real consequences before they understand what they did wrong. Maybe sitting in prison for 4 years will give him time to think about being a better person." "I hope he does get better," Emma said. "Not for him, but so he doesn't hurt any more animals." "That's a very kind way to think about it," David said. He was constantly amazed by his daughter's capacity for forgiveness. They reached their house, a small blue home with a white fence and a big backyard. As soon as they got inside, Emma carefully removed Max's medal and put it on a special shelf in the living room, right next to a photo of Max and David in their police uniforms. "There," Emma said, "now everyone who visits can see how brave you are." Max walked over to his water bowl and drank, then settled onto his favorite spot on the living room rug. Within minutes, he was asleep, his chest rising and falling with steady breaths. David made dinner while Emma did her homework at the kitchen table. It was a normal Friday evening, just like hundreds of others they'd had, but it also felt special. They had been through something hard together and come out stronger on the other side. Later, after dinner and homework and TV time, Emma got ready for bed. She brushed her teeth, put on her pajamas, and climbed under her covers. Max, as always, came into her room and lay down on the floor beside her bed. "Max," Emma said, leaning over the edge to look at him, "thank you for always protecting me, even when it's scary, even when bad things happen. You're the best dog in the whole world." Max's tail thumped against the floor. David came in to say goodnight. He kissed Emma's forehead and said, "Sweet dreams, sweetheart." "Dad," Emma said as he was leaving, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you think Max knows how much we love him?" David smiled. "I think he knows, Emma. Dogs are smart like that. They understand love even if they can't say it out loud." "Good," Emma said, settling into her pillow, "because I love him so much." "We both do," David said, turning off the light. In the darkness, Emma reached her hand down over the edge of the bed. Max lifted his head and gently rested his nose against her palm. They stayed like that until Emma fell asleep, connected by trust and love and the unbreakable bond between a girl and her dog. The story of Max and the biker didn't end with the trial or the commendation ceremony. It kept spreading, creating ripples that touched more lives than David or Emma ever expected. A month after the ceremony, David got a call at the police station. It was from a woman named Jennifer Park, a teacher at Riverside Elementary School. "Officer Mitchell," she said, "I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from the police department's public relations office." "Not at all," David said. "What can I do for you?" "Well, I teach 3rd grade, Jennifer explained. "And ever since the story about Max came out, my students have been fascinated. They've been asking a million questions about police dogs. Would you and Max be willing to come visit our school? I think the kids would love to meet him." David smiled. "I'd be happy to. Emma is in 3rd grade too. She could come along." "That would be wonderful," Jennifer said. 2 weeks later, David, Emma, and Max arrived at Riverside Elementary. The gym was filled with over 200 3rd graders sitting cross-legged on the floor. Their eyes grew huge when Max walked in. David stood at the front with Max sitting beside him. Emma stood on his other side, holding a microphone that made her feel very important. "Good morning," David said. "Good morning, Officer Mitchell," the children shouted back. "This is my partner, Max," David said, gesturing to the German Shepherd. "He's been a police K9 for 3 years. Who can tell me what a K9 officer does?" Dozens of hands shot up. David pointed to a boy in the front row. "They help catch bad guys," the boy said. "That's right," David said, "but they do a lot more than that. Max can track missing people by smelling them. He can find drugs and weapons that are hidden. He can protect me if someone tries to hurt me. And he's very good at knowing when someone is lying." The children's eyes got even bigger. "Now my daughter Emma has something to tell you," David said, handing her the microphone. Emma's hands shook a little, but she spoke clearly. "A few months ago, a mean man kicked Max just to be cruel. It was really scary. But Max stayed calm and protected me. He's the bravest dog I know." "That's right," David said, taking the microphone back. "What that man did was wrong. It was animal cruelty. And he went to jail for it. But here's what I want you all to remember. If you ever see someone hurting an animal, tell an adult. Don't try to stop it yourself, but make sure a teacher or parent or police officer knows about it. Animals can't speak up for themselves, so we have to speak up for them." The children nodded seriously. David then showed them some of Max's training. He had Max sit, stay, and lie down on command. He showed them how Max could track a scent by having Emma hide in another room and letting Max find her. The children clapped and cheered when Max found Emma in less than 30 seconds. At the end of the presentation, David let some of the children come up in small groups to pet Max gently. Max sat patiently, his tail wagging, as dozens of small hands touched his fur. One little girl with glasses and pigtails approached shyly. She didn't try to pet Max. She just stood there staring at him. "Would you like to pet him?" David asked gently. The girl shook her head. "I'm scared of dogs," she whispered. "That's okay," David said. "Max understands you don't have to pet him." But then Max did something special. He very slowly and gently laid down on the floor, making himself smaller and less scary. He looked at the little girl with soft eyes. The girl's face brightened. "He's trying to make me feel better," she said. "Yes, he is," David said. "That's what good dogs do. They understand feelings." Slowly, the little girl reached out one finger and barely touched Max's head. Max stayed perfectly still. Then she smiled, the biggest smile David had seen all day. "Well, he's soft," she said. "He sure is," David agreed. By the time they left the school, Emma was glowing with pride. "Dad, everyone loves Max. Did you see their faces?" "I did," David said. "Max is a good teacher. He shows kids that animals deserve respect and kindness." But Max's influence went even further. The local news station, which had covered the original incident and the trial, decided to do a follow-up story. They interviewed David about his work with Max and asked about other K9 units in the state. During the interview, David mentioned something that surprised the reporter. "Most people don't know this," he said, "but K9 programs are expensive. Training a police dog costs about $15,000. The dog's food, vet care, and equipment cost another $3,000 to $5,000 per year. Many small police departments can't afford K9 programs, even though they would really benefit from having them." The reporter, a young man named Marcus Chen, asked, "So there are towns that need police dogs but can't get them?" "Exactly," David said. "There are probably a dozen small departments within 50 miles of here that would love to have a K9 unit, but they don't have the budget for it." When that story aired, something amazing happened. A wealthy businessman named Harold Tucker saw it. Harold was in his 70s and had made his fortune in real estate. He had 3 dogs of his own and had always loved animals. The next day, Harold called the police department and asked to speak with David. "Officer Mitchell," Harold said, "I saw your interview last night. I had no idea K9 programs were so expensive. I'd like to do something about that." "What do you mean?" David asked. "I'd like to start a fund," Harold explained. "A foundation that pays for K9 units in small police departments that can't afford them. I'll put in the initial money to get it started, and we can raise more through donations. Would you be willing to help me set this up?" David was stunned. Mr. Tucker, that would be incredible. Yes, absolutely, I'll help. Over the next few months, Harold Tucker worked with David, the police department, and several other K-9 handlers to create the Max Foundation for Police K-9 units. The foundation's goal was simple: to fund K-9 programs in underfunded police departments across the state. The story of how the foundation started, inspired by Max's courage after being attacked, brought even more attention. News outlets across the state covered it. People sent donations. Within 6 months, the foundation had raised over $200,000. The first department to receive help from the Max Foundation was Millbrook, a small town about 30 miles from Riverside. They had wanted a K-9 unit for years but couldn't afford it. The foundation paid for a young German shepherd named Luna to be trained, along with all her equipment and her handler's training. David and Emma attended the ceremony when Luna was introduced to the Millbrook community. Emma got to hold Luna's leash and walk her across the stage. The young dog, only 2 years old, looked a lot like Max had when he first started. "Dad," Emma said, watching Luna work with her new handler, "Max helped make this happen. Because of what happened to him, other towns get to have police dogs now." "That's exactly right," David said. "Sometimes bad things happen, but we can choose to make something good come from them." Emma looked up at her father with wise eyes. "That's what Max does. He turns bad things into good things." 6 months after the incident, something unexpected happened. A popular YouTube channel called Justice Tailies made a video about Max's story. The channel specialized in telling true stories about everyday heroes, and they had millions of subscribers. The video was titled, "Biker Thought He Could Kick a Dog and Walk Away Until He Realized His Huge Mistake." It had professional narration, dramatic music, and clips from the news coverage of the trial. Within a week, the video had over 5 million views, then 10 million, then 20 million. Comments poured in from people all over the world. "That biker got exactly what he deserved. Don't mess with police dogs. Max is such a good boy. That little girl is so lucky to have him. I love how the judge gave him 4 years instead of 3. She wasn't playing around. This story made me cry. Dogs are so pure and loving. How could anyone hurt one? Officer Mitchell seems like an amazing dad and police officer. We need more men like him." Suddenly, David's phone was ringing constantly. News shows wanted interviews. Magazines wanted to do stories. A publisher called asking if David would write a book about his experiences as a K-9 handler. It was overwhelming. David was a simple police officer who just wanted to do his job and raise his daughter. He never expected to become famous. One evening, after a particularly long day of interview requests, David sat down with Emma and Max. "This is getting crazy," he said. "Everyone wants to talk about what happened." Emma was reading a book while lying on the floor with her head on Max's side. "Are you going to do all the interviews?" "I don't know," David admitted. "Part of me wants to. If telling our story helps people understand how important K-9 units are, that's good. But another part of me just wants things to go back to normal." "What does Max think?" Emma asked. David looked at Max, who was lying calmly on the rug, completely unbothered by all the attention. "I think Max doesn't care either way. He just wants to do his job and be with his family." "Then that's what you should do," Emma said with the simple wisdom of a child. "Do what Max would do." David smiled. "You're right. I'll do a few more interviews to help spread the word about K-9 programs, but then we're going back to normal life." Over the next month, David appeared on 3 national news programs. He and Max visited the state capitol, where the governor praised their work and announced new funding for K-9 programs across the state. Emma got to meet the governor too and was given a certificate nomming her an honorary junior K-9 handler. The Max Foundation continued to grow. By the end of the first year, they had funded 10 new K-9 units in small departments. Each dog was named with a name that started with M in honor of Max: Maverick, Maggie, Murphy, Molly, and others. David received letters and emails from all over the country. Some were from children who wanted to become K9 handlers when they grew up. Some were from adults thanking him for speaking up about animal cruelty. Some were from other police officers sharing their own stories about their K9 partners. One letter stood out. It was from a woman named Patricia Reynolds who lived in Oregon. She wrote, "Dear Officer Mitchell, I saw the story about Max on the news. I want to thank you for pursuing charges against the man who hurt him. 3 years ago, my neighbor kicked my dog, a sweet old golden retriever named Buddy, because he barked at night. Buddy died from internal injuries. When I called the police, they told me it was just an animal and there wasn't much they could do. The man who killed my dog never faced any consequences. Seeing Max get justice helps heal something in my heart. Thank you for showing that animals matter." David read that letter to Emma one night. When he finished, they were both quiet for a long moment. "Dad," Emma finally said, "we have to keep doing this. We have to keep telling people that hurting animals is wrong. Because there are probably lots of people like that woman whose dogs got hurt and nobody cared." "You're right," David said. "We do have to keep doing this." And so they did. David started working with local schools to create a humane education program. He and Max would visit classrooms to teach children about treating animals with kindness and respect. Emma often came along, telling her story from the perspective of someone who had witnessed animal cruelty firsthand. The program was so successful that other police departments started copying it. Soon, K9 units all over the state were visiting schools, not just to show off what police dogs could do, but to teach the importance of treating all animals well. 2 years into his 4-year sentence, Vic Rothman sat in the prison library. He had changed a lot since that day in the park. His hair was shorter and grayer. His face was thinner. The tough guy attitude had been completely stripped away by prison. Vic spent most of his time in the prison library, reading books and staying out of trouble. He had joined a prison program called Pause and Reflect, where inmates trained sheltered dogs to make them more adoptable. It was his way of trying to make up for what he had done to Max. The program's supervisor, a woman named Helen Garcia, pulled Vic aside one day. "Vic, you're doing really good work with these dogs. You're patient with them. Gentle. You seem to really understand them now." "I'm trying," Vic said quietly. "I can't undo what I did, but I can try to be better." "Have you thought about what you'll do when you get out?" Helen asked. Vic shrugged. "I don't know who's going to hire me. I'm a felon with a history of violence, and I'm banned from being around animals for life." "About that," Helen said, "I've been thinking. Your work in this program has been outstanding. You've helped train 15 dogs so far, and every single one of them has been adopted. That's a real accomplishment. I'd like to help you petition the court to reduce your animal ban." Vic looked up, hope flickering in his eyes for the first time in 2 years. "You think they'd consider it?" "I think if you can show real change, real remorse, and a commitment to making things right, the court might be willing to give you a second chance," Helen said. "But you'd need to do something big, something that proves you've really changed." "Like what?" "Like writing a letter of apology to Officer Mitchell and his daughter," Helen suggested. "A real letter where you take full responsibility and explain what you've learned." Vic thought about it for a long moment, then he nodded. "Okay, I'll write the letters." It took him 3 weeks to write it. He went through 17 drafts, crumpling up pages and starting over when the words didn't sound right. Finally, he had something he was ready to send. The letter read, "Dear Officer Mitchell and Emma, my name is Vic Rothman. 2 years ago, I kicked your dog Max in the park. I'm not writing to make excuses. What I did was cruel and wrong. There's no good reason for what I did. I was trying to act tough in front of my friends. I thought hurting an animal would make me seem strong. I was completely wrong. I've spent the last 2 years in prison thinking about that day. I've replayed it in my mind 1,000 times. I see Emma's face when she screamed. I see Max stumble after I kicked him. I see the pain I caused. It makes me sick. I want you to know that I'm not the same person I was that day. I've been working with shelter dogs in a prison program. I've learned about their emotions, their loyalty, their capacity to forgive. Every dog I work with, I think about Max. I wonder if he's doing okay. I wonder if Emma still has nightmares about what I did. I know you have no reason to forgive me. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know that your story changed me. Because you pursued charges, because the judge gave me real consequences, I had to face what I did. That was the wake-up call I needed. I hope Max is doing well. I hope Emma isn't afraid of people anymore. I hope you both know that one person's cruelty doesn't represent everyone. There are far more good people in the world than bad ones. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be one of the good ones. Sincerely, Victor Rothman. When David received the letter at the police station, he read it carefully 3 times. Then he brought it home and showed it to Emma, who was now 10 years old and in 5th grade. Emma read the letter slowly. When she finished, she looked at her father. "Do you think he means it?" "I think he might," David said. "People can change, Emma. Not everyone does. But some people, when they face real consequences and have time to think, they can become better." "Should we write back?" Emma asked. David was surprised. "Do you want to?" Emma thought about it. "I think so, not because I forgive him, I'm not ready for that, but I think he should know that Max is okay, that we're okay, that he didn't break us." Together, David and Emma wrote a short response. "Oh, Mr. Rothman, thank you for your letter. Max is doing very well. He's still an active police K9 and has helped many people over the past 2 years. Emma is doing well too. She has grown into a strong, kind young woman who advocates for animal rights. Your apology is noted. We hope you continue on the path of change you've described. The best apology is changed behavior. Officer David Mitchell and Emma Mitchell." When Vic received their response, he cried. It was the first time he had cried in over 10 years. He kept the letter in his cell, reading it whenever he felt himself slipping back into old patterns of anger and violence. 6 months later, with Helen's help, Vic petitioned the court to reduce his lifetime animal ban. The hearing was held with Judge Brennan, the same judge who had sentenced him. Vic stood before the judge, much humbler than he had been 2 years earlier. "Your Honor, I'm not asking for my conviction to be overturned. I deserve the punishment I received. But I'm asking for a chance to work with animals in the future. I've discovered that working with dogs in the prison program has changed me. I'd like to be able to continue that work when I'm released." Judge Brennan reviewed his records. She read letters from Helen Garcia about Vic's work in the program. She read the letter he had written to David and Emma and their response. "Mr. Rothman," the judge said, "2 years ago I sentenced you to prison and banned you from animals for life. I did that because I saw a man who was cruel without remorse. Today I see someone different. I see someone who has done the hard work of change." Vic held his breath. "I'm reducing your lifetime ban to 10 years, Judge Brennan said. After you serve your sentence and complete 10 years of probation, you may petition to have the ban removed entirely. But hear me clearly. If you ever harm an animal again, if you show any sign of returning to your old ways, the ban will be reinstated permanently. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor," Vic said, his voice shaking with emotion. "Thank you, I won't let you down." When David heard about the judge's decision, he was thoughtful. "What do you think, Emma? Do you think the judge made the right call?" Emma was reading a book about animal behavior for a school project. She looked up and said, "I think if he's really changed, he deserves a chance to prove it. But if he hurts another animal, he should go to jail forever." David smiled. "Fair enough." 4 years after the incident in the park, Max was now 7 years old. In dog years, that made him middle-aged. He was still strong and capable, but he had started to slow down just a little bit. He couldn't run quite as fast as he used to. After a long day of work, he was more tired than before. David noticed these changes and took Max to Dr. Chen for a checkup. Dr. Chen examined Max thoroughly. She listened to his heart, checked his joints, and ran some blood tests. When she came back with the results, her face was kind but serious. "David," she said, "Max is healthy for his age, but he's getting older. Police K9s usually retire around age 8 or 9. Max is starting to show some early signs of arthritis in his hips. It's not bad yet, but it will get worse over time. David's heart sank. He had known this day would come eventually, but he wasn't ready for it. How much longer can he work? I'd give him another year, maybe 2 at most, Dr. Chen said. After that, he should retire to a quieter life. No more chasing suspects or long tracking missions, just being a family dog. That night, David talked to Emma about it. Emma was now 12 years old, in 7th grade, and had grown into a thoughtful young woman. But when David told her Max would need to retire soon, she cried. But Max loves his job, Emma said through her tears. He loves being a police dog. I know, sweetheart, David said, hugging her. But his body won't be able to do it forever. We have to think about what's best for Max. Would you want him to keep working until he's in pain? No, Emma admitted, but I don't want him to stop being a police dog. It's who he is. He'll always be a police dog in his heart, David said. But when he retires, he'll get to be a full-time family dog. He'll get to sleep in, play in the backyard, and spend all his time with us. That's not such a bad life, is it? Emma wiped her tears. I guess not, as long as he's happy. Over the next year, Max continued to work with David, but they took on easier assignments. No more high-speed chases, no more dangerous drug raids. Mostly they did community events, school visits, and public relations work. Max was getting to be famous in Riverside and the surrounding towns. Children knew him by name. Adults would stop David on the street just to pet Max and thank him for his service. On Max's 8th birthday, the police department threw a retirement party for him. The whole department came, along with dozens of people from the community. There was a big cake shaped like a dog bone. Children gave Max toys and treats. Other K-9 handlers brought their dogs to celebrate with him. Chief Robert Thompson, who had been the chief when David first joined the force, gave a speech. Max has served this community for 5 years, he said. In that time, he has helped solve dozens of cases, find missing people, and keep our streets safe. But more than that, Max has shown us what it means to serve with dignity and courage. He's an example not just to other K-9s, but to all of us. David was given Max's retirement certificate, officially designating him as a retired police K-9. The certificate came with full honors and a small pension that would cover Max's food and medical care for the rest of his life. Emma made a speech too. Even though she was only 12, she spoke with confidence. Max has been my best friend since I was 6 years old. He's protected me, played with me, and loved me every single day. I'm so proud of everything he's done, and I'm excited that now he gets to just be a dog. He deserves it. After the party, David and Emma took Max home. They removed his police vest for the last time and replaced it with a regular collar. Max looked up at David with those intelligent brown eyes, as if asking, "What now?" "Now you rest, buddy," David said, scratching Max's ears. "You've earned it." Max seemed to understand. He walked over to his favorite spot on the living room rug, circled 3 times, and lay down with a contented sigh. Over the next few months, Max settled into retirement. He slept more, he played more. He spent long afternoons lying in the backyard, watching birds and squirrels. He no longer had to be on high alert all the time. He could just be a dog. But even in retirement, Max never lost his protective instinct. When Emma had friends over, Max would position himself where he could see everyone. When David worked in the garage, Max would lie in the doorway watching. When the family went for walks, Max would check every person who passed them, making sure there were no threats. "Once a police dog, always a police dog," David would say with a smile. 3 years after Max retired, Emma was 15 years old and a sophomore in high school. She had grown into a confident, compassionate young woman. She volunteered at the local animal shelter, where she helped train and socialize dogs waiting to be adopted. She was thinking about becoming a veterinarian when she grew up. One Saturday afternoon, Emma was at the shelter working with a young German shepherd named Thor. Thor had been found as a stray and was nervous around people. Emma was teaching him basic commands and helping him learn to trust humans again. The shelter director, a woman named Michelle Santos, came over to watch Emma work. "You're really good with him," Michelle said. "Thanks," Emma said. My dad and Max taught me everything I know about dogs. Speaking of Max, Michelle said, how is he doing? Emma's smile faded a little. He's okay. He's 11 now, which is really old for a German Shepherd. He sleeps most of the day. His back legs are getting weak from the arthritis. But he's still happy. He still wags his tail when he sees me. That's good, Michelle said gently. 11 is a good long life for a working dog. Emma knew what Michelle wasn't saying. German Shepherds typically lived 12 to 14 years. Max probably didn't have much time left. That reality hit home a few weeks later when Max had a bad day. He couldn't get up from his bed in the morning. His back legs wouldn't support him. David had to carry him outside to go to the bathroom. They took Max to Dr. Chen, who was now in her 50s but still running her practice. She examined Max carefully and then sat down with David and Emma. Max's arthritis has gotten much worse, she said gently. His quality of life is declining. He's in pain, even with the medications I've been giving him. Can you do anything? Emma asked, tears already forming in her eyes. I can increase his pain medication, Dr. Chen said. That will help for a while, but Emma, you need to understand that Max is very old. His body is wearing out. Eventually, we'll reach a point where the kindest thing we can do is let him go peacefully. Emma burst into tears. David put his arm around her, his own eyes wet. Not yet, Emma said through her sobs. Please, not yet. Not today, Dr. Chen said softly. But soon, maybe a few weeks, maybe a couple of months if we're lucky. I'll help you know when it's time, I promise. The next few weeks were bittersweet. Max had good days and bad days. On good days, he could still walk around the house and even manage to go outside without help. On bad days, he barely moved from his bed. Emma spent every free moment with Max. She would lie on the floor next to him, reading him stories like she used to when she was little. She would tell him about her day, about school, about the dog she was training at the shelter. Max would listen with his ears up, his eyes on her face, his tail giving little wags when she said something particularly interesting. David took time off work to be home more. He and Max would sit in the backyard together, David in a chair and Max lying in the grass nearby. They didn't need to do anything or go anywhere. Just being together was enough. One evening, Emma came home from the shelter with news. Dad, she said, Michelle asked me something today. She wants to know if we'd be interested in fostering a police dog in training. The program is looking for experienced families to help socialize young K9s before they start their official training. David looked at Max, who was sleeping on his rug. I don't know, Emma. It seems wrong to bring another dog in while Max is still here. I thought about that too, Emma said. But Dad, what if Max could help train one more dog? What if his last job could be teaching a puppy to be brave and good like he is? David thought about it. What do you think, Max? He asked the sleeping dog. Max's ear twitched, but he didn't wake up. 2 days later, a 12-week-old German Shepherd puppy arrived at their house. His name was Ace, and he was going to start police K9 training when he was a year old. For now, he needed to learn how to be around people and other dogs. Ace was all energy and excitement. He bounded around the house, chewing everything, tripping over his own big puppy feet. Max watched from his bed with what David could only describe as patient amusement. Then something wonderful happened. Ace approached Max cautiously, his puppy tail wagging. Max, who had been lying down, slowly stood up. Emma and David held their breath, worried the puppy might be too much for the old dog. But Max just sniffed Ace carefully. Then very gently he touched his nose to the puppy's nose. It was a greeting and acceptance. Ace's whole body wiggled with joy. From that moment on, Ace became Max's shadow. Wherever Max went, Ace followed. When Max lay down, Ace curled up beside him. When Max moved to a different room, Ace trailed behind him. And Max, despite his age and pain, seemed to get a little bit better. He moved more, he ate more. It was as if having a purpose, even just teaching a puppy, gave him renewed energy. Emma noticed it first. Dad, look at Max. He's been showing Ace how to sit properly. And when Ace gets too wild, Max gives him this look and Ace calms down immediately. David smiled. Max is teaching him, he's passing on everything he knows. For 6 weeks, Max mentored Ace. He taught the puppy by example how to walk calmly on a leash, how to sit and stay, how to be gentle with people. Ace learned faster than any puppy David had ever seen, all because he was watching and copying Max. But then Max had another bad day, then another. The bad days started outnumbering the good days. Dr. Chen came to the house to examine Max. After checking him, she pulled David and Emma aside while Max slept. "It's time," she said softly. "Max is suffering. His organs are starting to fail. We can keep him alive for maybe another week or two, but he'll be in pain. The kindest thing we can do is let him go peacefully." Emma sobbed. David held her tight, his own tears falling. "Can we do it here?" David asked. "At home, I don't want his last moments to be in a clinic." "Of course," Dr. Chen said, "we can do it whenever you're ready. Today, tomorrow, whenever feels right." They decided to wait one more day. They wanted to say goodbye properly. The next morning, Emma stayed home from school. David had already taken the day off. They spent the entire day with Max. They gave him his favorite foods. They told him stories about all his adventures over the years. They thanked him for everything he had done for their family. Ace seemed to understand something important was happening. The puppy, usually so energetic, was calm and quiet. He lay next to Max all day, his head resting on Max's side. That evening, Dr. Chen came to the house. She brought 2 assistants with her. They were quiet and respectful, understanding the weight of what was about to happen. They set up in the living room on Max's favorite rug. Emma sat on one side of Max, holding his head in her lap. David sat on the other side, his hand on Max's back. Even Ace was there, sitting close but not in the way. "Are you ready?" Dr. Chen asked gently. Emma and David both nodded, tears streaming down their faces. Dr. Chen explained what would happen. "First, I'll give him a sedative. He'll fall asleep peacefully like he's just taking a nap. He won't feel any pain. Then once he's asleep, I'll give him the final injection. His heart will stop and he'll be gone. It will be quick and peaceful." She gave Max the first injection. Within seconds, Max's eyes began to close, his breathing slowed, his body relaxed. "Good boy, Max," Emma whispered, stroking his head. "You're such a good boy. Thank you for being my best friend. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for everything." "You were the best partner I ever had," David said, his voice breaking. "The best dog, the best friend. Thank you, Max. Thank you for everything." Max's tail wagged one last time, so slightly that they almost missed it. Then he was asleep. Dr. Chen gave the final injection. She listened to Max's heart with her stethoscope. After a moment, she looked up with tears in her own eyes. "He's gone," she said softly. "I'm so sorry." Emma buried her face in Max's fur and sobbed. David cried openly, holding his daughter and the dog who had been part of their family for over a decade. Ace crawled forward and touched his nose to Max's, a final goodbye. They buried Max in the backyard under a big oak tree where he used to love to rest. David built a beautiful wooden marker with Max's name, his badge number, and the words, "Faithful friend, loyal partner, true hero." At the funeral, which was attended by dozens of people from the police department and the community, Chief Thompson said, "Max was more than a police dog. He was a teacher, a protector, and a friend. He served with courage, loved with loyalty, and lived with dignity. We should all be so lucky to leave such a legacy." Emma read a poem she had written. "You were my friend when I was small, my protector through it all. You taught me how to be brave and true. The world is better because of you. Though you're gone, you're still right here, in every moment, always near. Thank you, Max, for loving me. Your memory lives eternally." There wasn't a dry eye at the funeral. 6 months after Max died, Emma was in her junior year of high school. She had decided she wanted to become a K9 handler like her father, not a veterinarian. She wanted to train police dogs to help create more dogs like Max who could protect and serve communities. Ace, who was now a year old, had begun his official police K9 training. He was excelling. thanks to the foundation Max had given him in those 6 weeks. The trainer said Ace was the best natural police dog they'd seen in years. David had taken on a new K9 partner, a female German shepherd named Luna. She was smart and capable, but David still found himself comparing her to Max. No dog would ever quite measure up to his first K9 partner. One day, David got a call from an unexpected person, Vic Rothman. Vic had been released from prison after serving his full 4-year sentence. He had completed 2 years of probation without any incidents. Now he was calling to ask if David would be willing to meet with him. David almost said no, but something made him agree. They met at a coffee shop downtown. Vic looked completely different from the aggressive biker who had kicked Max 7 years earlier. His hair was neat. He wore clean, simple clothes. His face was calm, not angry. "Thank you for meeting me," Vic said quietly. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure I would either," David admitted. "What do you want, Vic?" "I wanted to tell you in person that I'm sorry," Vic said. "I wrote you that letter in prison, but that doesn't feel like enough. I needed to say it to your face. What I did to Max was inexcusable. I've spent the last 7 years trying to become a better person. I work at an animal shelter now. I help rehabilitate dogs that have been abused. It's my way of making up for what I did." David studied Vic's face. "Max died 6 months ago." Vic's face crumpled. "I'm so sorry. Was it because of what I did?" "No," David said. "He lived a long, good life. He was 11, which is old for a German shepherd. His body just wore out. But Vic, I need you to understand something. What you did to Max didn't just affect that one day. Emma had nightmares for months. I had to deal with people recognizing us everywhere we went, asking questions about the incident. It changed our lives." "I know," Vic said, "and I can't change what I did, but I can change who I am now. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that your pursuit of justice made a difference. If you hadn't pressed charges, if that judge hadn't given me real consequences, I would probably still be the same angry, violent person I was. Prison and the dog training program changed me. You changed me." David was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I hope you mean that, Vic. I hope you really have changed." "I have," Vic said, "and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it." They talked for another hour. Vic told David about the dogs he was working with at the shelter. David told Vic about the Max Foundation and all the K9 units it had helped fund. By the end of the conversation, something had shifted. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was understanding. When they left the coffee shop, Vic said, "Would it be okay if I donated to the Max Foundation? In Max's memory." David was surprised. "You'd do that?" "I'd like to," Vic said. "I don't have a lot of money, but I could give a little each month. It seems like the right thing to do." "Then yes," David said, "I think Max would like that." Vic became a regular donor to the Max Foundation. But more than that, he became an advocate. He started giving talks at schools about how one bad decision can change your life. He would tell students about kicking Max, about going to prison, about the hard work of changing yourself. His message was simple: treat animals with kindness, think before you act, and always take responsibility for your choices. Emma met Vic about a year later at one of these school presentations. She was volunteering to talk about Max alongside her father. When she heard Vic's story, she was moved. After the presentation, she approached him. "Mr. Rothman, I'm Emma. I was the little girl in the park that day." Vic's face went pale. "Emma, I'm so sorry for what I did to you and Max." "I know," Emma said. "I've heard your story. I believe you've changed. And I want to tell you something. What you did was terrible. But because of it, my dad and I started the Max Foundation. Because of that foundation, over 50 police departments now have K9 units that they couldn't afford before. Those dogs have saved lives, found missing children, and made communities safer. So in a weird way, something good came from that bad day." Vic had tears in his eyes. "Thank you for telling me that. It means more than you know." Emma smiled. "Max taught me that everyone deserves a second chance, even people who hurt him. He never held grudges. He just loved and protected and did his job. I'm trying to be more like him." 2 years later, on what would have been Max's 14th birthday, the city of Riverside unveiled a statue in the park. It was a bronze sculpture of a German shepherd standing alert, wearing a police vest. The plaque at the base read, Max 2013-2024 Police K9 Officer, Badge K907 Faithful Protector, Loyal Partner, Community Hero serving with courage and dignity. In honor of all K9 officers who serve and protect our communities. Hundreds of people attended the unveiling ceremony. David was there with Emma, who is now a college freshman studying criminal justice and K9 training. Luna was there, wearing her police vest. Ace was there too, now a fully certified K9 officer working with a young handler in a nearby town. Mayor Green, who was now in her 70s but still in office, gave a speech. Max was more than a police dog. He was a symbol of everything good about service and sacrifice. His story inspired thousands of people. His legacy continues through the Max Foundation, which has now funded over 100 K9 units across the state. Max's life mattered, his service mattered, and we will never forget him. Emma spoke too. She was 20 years old now, confident and articulate. When I was 8 years old, a man kicked my best friend. It was one of the worst days of my life, but my dad taught me that we get to choose what we do with bad experiences. We can let them make us bitter, or we can use them to create something good. Max's story has created so much good. It's changed laws about animal cruelty. It's funded police K9 programs. It's taught thousands of children about treating animals with respect. Max was a good dog who did his job with love and courage every single day. I hope when people see this statue, they remember that every action matters. Kindness matters. Standing up for those who can't speak for themselves matters. That's Max's legacy. And that's how we honor him. As the ceremony ended and people began to leave, David stood alone in front of the statue. He reached up and touched the bronze dog's head. "Oh, you did good, Max," he whispered. "You did so good." A butterfly landed on the statue's nose for just a moment before flying away. David smiled through his tears. He knew it was just a coincidence, but it felt like Max's way of saying, "I know and thank you." 5 years after Max's death, Emma graduated from the police academy at the top of her class. She was assigned to Riverside Police Department's K9 unit, working alongside her father, who was now a K9 supervisor. Emma's partner was a 2-year-old German shepherd named Charlie. Charlie reminded her of Max in many ways: intelligent, protective, gentle with children, fierce when needed. On Emma's first official day as a K9 officer, she and Charlie were called to help find a missing 5-year-old boy who had wandered away from his home. Using Charlie's tracking ability, Emma found the boy within an hour, scared but safe in a ravine half a mile from his house. When Emma returned the boy to his crying mother, the woman hugged Emma and Charlie both. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you for finding my baby." Emma smiled. "Just doing our job, ma'am." That night, Emma visited Max's grave under the oak tree in her backyard. She sat on the grass and told Max about her day. "I found a little boy today," she said. "He was so scared, but Charlie tracked him down and we brought him home. His mom was so happy. And Max, I thought about you the whole time. I thought about how many people you saved, how many families you helped. I'm trying to be like you, Max. I'm trying to make you proud." The wind rustled the leaves of the oak tree. Emma stood up, brushed off her uniform, and walked back to the house. Charlie was waiting at the door, his tail wagging. "Come on, partner," Emma said, scratching his ears. "We've got work to do." And as she and Charlie headed inside, the stars came out overhead. One star seemed to shine a little brighter than the others, watching over the house, watching over the police officer and her K9 partner, watching over a family that had learned that love and courage never really die. They just keep getting passed on from one generation to the next, from one brave heart to another. Max's legacy lived on. And that was the greatest tribute of all. If this story touched your heart, please remember that thousands of police K9 officers serve communities around the world every single day. They protect us, find missing people, stop criminals, and sometimes give their lives in the line of duty. Support your local K9 units. Teach your children to respect and be kind to all animals. And remember, one act of cruelty can cause pain, but one act of kindness can change the world. If you see animal cruelty, speak up, report it. Don't let anyone hurt an innocent creature. Be like Max, brave, loyal, and full of love. God bless you and thank you for reading Max's story.